I remember sitting on the edge of a hotel bed, sorting through line after line of a ledger to figure out if the tour manager of the tour I was on had missed paying me one of the nights I'd been on the tour. I was promised $55 a night, and something seemed amiss in my math, so we sat there for maybe an hour and a half. And at that point, Frank Tate, who owned the label I was on, and whose band was headlining the tour, and with whom I'd struck the $55 a night deal, pulled some cash out of his wallet and said, "Okay, here's $55, let's get back to work." As we left the hotel room, I sidled up next to Frank, thinking he'd taken my side against the faulty memory of our tour manager. "Thanks for your help in there." But he hadn't taken my side, at least not in the way I wanted him to. Frank said, "I gave you the money because I don't care. And you shouldn't either. You should just be thankful you get to do this." It felt like a jab at the time. It wasn't. It was the push that I needed. I was definitely the weakest part of that tour. Easily the weakest part of that tour. But that wasn't even Frank's point. Frank was wanting me to love the work more than I loved the results of the work. He knew I'd be around a lot longer if I did. Now, if you've read It Is What You Make of It, my most recent book, you'll know that there are even more stories about Frank Tate's influence on the way I see my life and my work and the relationship between. Years later, after that incident, my experience and reflection on the love of work resulted in an analogy that I used in my second book, which I called Title Pending. That book was a kind of precursor to It Is What You Make of It. And in that book, I recall a memory with my son, Asa, in which we went hiking. We left the place we lived and drove about 15 miles across the way to Mount Diablo, and on the drive over, my son was really excited to get to the mountain, but as we got closer to the mountain, the houses in front of the mountain blocked his view of the mountain that we could see from 15 miles away. But then once we were there on the trail and hiking up the mountain, you couldn't see the mountain at all, and my son got confused and said, "Dad, where did the mountain go?" I said, "Buddy, we're on the mountain. This is the mountain." And he didn't believe me. He said, "No, Dad, where'd the mountain go?" I said, "Buddy, this is the mountain. We're on it." But what Asa didn't know, and was learning then, is that once you're on the mountain, it doesn't look like a mountain anymore. It looks like 400 feet of dirt. And if I don't fall in love with that 400 feet of dirt and invest my time, my energy, and the best of my efforts in that 400 feet, and then the next 400 feet, and then the next 400 feet, I don't get to the top of the mountain, which is what I intended to do when I started the hike. You see, from a distance, the mountain is beautiful and majestic, and I want to be there. But then once I'm there, I lose that majestic vision, and I just have the 400 feet of dirt. I just have the work. So with books, it doesn't look like 175 to 200 pages of printed text. It looks like 4 a.m. wake-ups and long slogs on the keyboard with a blank page in front of me. In music, it looks like bad song after bad song with lyrics that don't pair and melody that just doesn't seem to make sense until finally it does. In a relationship, it looks like arguments and therapy and other friends helping out and sadness and frustration. The work of life is the thing I need to fall in love with in order to love the life I'm living. And one of the great gifts artists can offer the world is to stick around long enough to become disillusioned with success the way they were chasing it, to fall in love with the process, to talk about their process, to share their process, so that when we, in the midst of our own slog, in the midst of our own work, look around our own lives, we're not just inspired by the success and by the beauty and by the accomplishment of that artist. We are in fact challenged and informed by the way they got there. That's one of the things that makes it art.